We go to a primetime news special report on guard rings in school. Is it a false sense of security? Anthony Log explores the issue and more in this three-part series.
These rings are not just a fashion statement. For some schoolboys out west, the precious metals mean much more.
You will see them with at least 2 guard rings. And they will tell you that their guard rings are fully loaded. When you ask, fully loaded with what? The guzu, quote unquote, obia.
We're told that in some instances, boys pay close to $200,000 for oils and crystals to be placed inside the ring, which they believe provides them with some form of protection. It's why they guard it with their life. William Knibb High School in Trelawney came into the news recently, not just for the fatal stabbing of a student by one of his peers.
It's alleged the two were fighting over a ring. Now, as to what type of ring?
It is alleged that the ring involved in this unfortunate incident was ritualized. And then persons are speculating now that a part of the price for the use and possession of this ring was perhaps the life of this child.
Over in Hanover, this revelation from a teacher who asked us to conceal his identity.
They refuse to take off these guard rings. They will tell you that their life depends on these rings, and you dare not to try to take it from them because it will pose a problem.
William Knibb, on the other hand, has been taking a zero-tolerance approach to rings and other jewelry. However, Vice Principal Webster Thompson pointed to this reality.
When the seizures started, they started to hide them, and therefore many rings could still be on the compound, but they no longer wear them.
It's alleged that most schoolboys who wear these guard rings are scammers. We put the issue to a student who admitted that he's involved in the lottery scamming.
When I check it out, me would take up my money and I do no guard ring thing, daddy. You understand? Because I waste the money and you will be there for right. So your phone has no rest when you go to the Almighty right, because Almighty said you did do your thing.
They don't care. It's all about making the money and protection for them. They will tell you if a dirt, a dirt.
Stark reality from administrators out west, and already there have been talks about what needs to be done to tackle the issue of guard rings in schools as fears grow over violence among children. But it appears the phenomenon could be here to stay. Christopher Charles is professor of political and social psychology at the University of the West Indies.
It's actually impossible to erase them from the culture. It's embedded in the culture. It's a part of the African retention.
Mr. Charles went further.
So if you have someone with deeply held ancestral beliefs who is from a family that creates violence producers, then any youngster whose guard ring is stolen, is missing, or someone lost it, they are going to get angry and aggressive because the guard ring, right, in their minds, an important protective gear.
In part 2, do guard rings give a false sense of protection?
Once me give you a guard ring, it protect you from any form of evil whatsoever.
An Obia man weighs in. Anthony Log, TBJ News. Guard rings, a false sense of protection?
Once me give you a guard ring, it protect you from any form of evil.
Dickie Banton is all too familiar with the use of guard rings. In fact, for years he's been preparing the jewelry for clients. We're told the ring is purchased and then taken to be prepared. Then, oils and crystals are placed inside.
Then me should have load one ring here right now. That load has stayed in that ring indefinitely. If you last see and a man find it and go see, go beard, I go 90 go hang the salt, and the salt touch his hand with the ring the pan, he guard him too.
He insists the ring is an important accessory irrespective of age.
Every man have a right to protect themselves, and it's not by age, it's by birth.
But not so, says Bishop Rowan Edwards. He heads the Lighthouse Ministries in Jamaica.
This is a dangerous path that this country is on.
The issue of students using guard rings came into focus after 15-year-old Kamal Hall of the William Knibb High School in Trelawney was stabbed to death following a dispute over the jewelry.
That student who killed another student because of a guard ring. How you feel, Mr. Obiaman? That you feel comforted with that?
Like Bishop Edwards, many Jamaicans are outraged by the fact that youngsters have taken an interest in the rings, which they see as a form of protection.
As a bond, Satan after you, and wicked people after you. So you have to guard from either one or the other. And if you have a good guard, you're being protected from the two. Because Satan is going to do everything to win your soul. And man is going to do everything to kill you. Hello, man a kill man for better looks. Man a kill man for prettier woman. Man a kill man because he say I want a good job. Man a walk over because man get promotion over them. Hello, the thing hot.
Bishop Edwards rubbished those claims.
A lot of them from Spanish Town who said they were wearing guard rings, I buried them at Dovecut and Netherest and number 5. So if that's your belief, it is harming our young people. It is hurting our boys who are in school right now, struggling to get an education.
The wearing of a guard ring spans decades and is said to be deeply rooted in African, Spanish, and other cultures. Some have, however, blasted sellers and users of the piece of jewelry because it's linked to illegal activities. This response from Christopher Charles, Professor of Political and Social Sciences at the University of the West Indies.
There are other people who use guard rings that are not valid. So the issue is our institutions in Jamaica, dysfunctional families, failing schools, violent communities.
With the increasing number of school-aged children who have bought into the guard ring phenomenon, there are calls for intervention. But how? We'll explore in part 3.
The future looks very dark. I don't think that, let's say in the next 2 to 3 years, if we are going to produce students who are fit to go out in the world of work.
We cannot continue like this as a nation. And every church must cry out against this. I am leading a campaign across this nation to tell the boys in the school that they're barking up the wrong tree because this is wrong.
Anthony Lug, TVJ News.
And we go now to the conclusion of our Primetime News in Focus report, Guard Rings in Schools. Anthony Lug looks at the way forward.
Differing views on guard rings in schools.
A guard ring is like a gun. You live in an environment where you have to get a gun to protect yourself, and you get a gun and you have to protect your children night and day. But that's what guard ring can.
You need to repent, sir, or ma'am. Those of you involved in these things, getting rich over the poor people who you claim that you're guarding.
Despite the recent incident at the William Knibb High School in Trelawney, one teacher in Hanover says some of his students aren't fazed.
I posed a question to one. So you think that the killing at that institution, if the ring actually protect that person? So the student replied by saying that the power never strong enough.
While exploring the issue, we also learned that parents purchase these rings for their children and support them in illicit activities, particularly lottery scamming.
Not only are you putting their physical well-being in danger, but you are also risking the loss of their very souls.
And you, mothers, if you are getting something out of that scamming business, you need to be charged jointly when these boys are caught, because you're aiding and abetting.
Given that it's deeply rooted in our culture, guard rings may be here to stay. We asked Professor of Political and Social Psychology at the University of the West Indies, Christopher Charles, about the way forward.
Why do we need to deal with guard rings?
Why not deal with guard rings?
Because there's no need to. Because there are other people who use guard rings that are not valid. When a youngster is raised in is socialized in a dysfunctional family, So there's violence at home. He lives in a violent community. And he or she's not doing well at school. He's frustrated. The school is failing the child. What you will find is that more often than not, that child will be violent, and that child will act out the violence that he or she experiences at home and in the community. So that's not a gathering problem. That's a problem that we have to solve as a society.
Recently, the Jamaica Constabulary Force deployed 55 school resource officers to institutions on the Safe Schools program across the island. While this intervention is expected to bring some level of order in schools, it's agreed it will take much more.
The issue is really thinking through things, bringing all the stakeholders and bringing the person who have the technical competencies to address the problem. It requires thinking and medium to long-term planning.
They have seen live here at school the potential outcome of this kind of involvement. So we will just continue to guide and to, as the Bible says, to train them up in the way that they should go, so that when they are old, they will not depart from it.
Anthony Lug, TVJ News.